Sit on the table or the chair?
The table, please.
What's going on?
Correct.
So we're just moving a stitcher.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Good.
You guys hear me okay?
Sorry, I'm supposed to be on a Zoom call. Forgot about this.
Yes, sir.
Train or
Right on.
Hey,
So
Dan,
I'm sure you guys, yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I got a couple of questions about yesterday's kind of the graphic you had on there that had, what did it have? It was the 4 squares.
Mm-hmm.
You know, could you kind of synopsize that again? What is that? How do we incorporate that into the
Hold on. There we go. Matt was all over.
our questionnaire? Yeah, me and Matt are sitting in the same room.
So the 4-box close, we want to plant that seed early on because we're trying to overcome the inevitable shop around objection.
Uh-huh.
So I would always tell a story about how, previously, like the story I told yesterday is my grandparents. Hold on a second.
For the whole income, they don't.
There we go. My grandparents always telling me that when you're hiring somebody to do a project on your home, it's imperative that you get 3 quotes because you want to make sure that you get a pretty good idea of what's available on the market. You get multiple price points, make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, and you're not just jumping in feet first without doing your due diligence. But things have changed in the industry because, that was in the early 90s. Back then, there was no social media, there was no internet so that we could pre-scout companies that were coming out of the house. Back then, if you looked somebody in the eye and shook their hand, their word was bond for the most part. It is not really that case anymore. We weren't dealing with products that were manufactured to fail back then the way we are now. So nowadays, when we're talking to homeowners who are doing projects like this, odds are they've researched the company ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a standard that's set where, we all look at reviews before we make purchases to see what was the experience of other people who use this company. You should be focused on the company. The company is one of the 4 pillars that will determine whether or not you have a good experience or this is a project you end up having to do again.
Okay.
If you find a company you trust with a long-standing history of greatness, now you got to pick the right product to solve the problem you're dealing with in your home with a design that you love because you're going to be living with this product for as long as you own the home, and then you want it to sell quickly if and when you sell the property. So it has to have broad aesthetic appeal to the masses. And then if you check those boxes, once you go company, product, design, the only one that's left is affordability, which is important to all of us. So nowadays, if you do all your research, you find a company that checks all 4 of those boxes. For most people we talk to, they're done shopping at that point. So I want to tee that up early on in the survey so that I have planted that seed. And then if you look at the way our entire process is laid out, step by step, you are checking those boxes.
I got it. Okay.
Yep.
So it's not something that it's planting that. This is just a prompt to plant those 4 pillar seeds and then work off of that framework throughout the whole conversation.
Yeah, this also falls into that category of we tell them what we're going to tell them, and then we tell them, and then we tell them we told them. So
yeah, okay, all right. Then the other question is, with the scripts, I like to revise it to kind of fit my personality and our business. Okay to do that, right?
oh
I'm
yeah,
not revise it and then send it to you and you're like, oh no, that's not what you should say. We're just tweaking the words. That's cool.
yeah, 100%. A script is just a concept, right?
Okay.
Dominic wrote these scripts. I don't deliver them in the home the exact way Dominic wrote them for quite a few of these scripts because I don't speak the same way Dominic does.
Right. Got it.
So you have to make them your own for sure. Authenticity is key.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I grade, just so you guys know, on the final exam, when you're delivering scripts, I look for comprehension, not perfection.
Okay.
So if you can deliver a script where if I'm a homeowner and I've never sat through this, it seems legitimate and authentic.
Mhm.
That's, I don't care about you knowing verbatim. I want you to do this to make money.
Right, right. But I mean, and I embrace your comment that these have to be memorized and natural. And so as we're doing that, I want to make sure that what we're saying is what we're committing to memory. And
Yeah.
stick to.
I'm a
So,
big fan of memorizing scripts as they're written because if you have a baseline, then the fundamental concept of the script is in your brain. It's hardwired in, and then you can tweak off of that and just build it however you want. The beautiful part of sales, it's a lot of trial and error out there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
brand new ball game every 4 hours. New kitchen table. They have no idea if you crap the bed at your 10 o'clock. You know, the beauty of this job.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. So for those of you who are starting to log in here, you may have seen a prompt at the top that says we are broadcasting live. Congratulations, guinea pig class. This is the first time we've ever gone live on YouTube. So I'm stoked about it. I have no idea if anybody's even watching this or not, but it's going to be the same as it is every day. But a couple of you have reached out to me and asked, like, can we get the recordings from you? We figured it would be a lot easier if we had at least one example of one of these classroom sessions where you go to YouTube and you could watch it over and over again. You pick out things you like. So if anybody's uncomfortable having their face on YouTube in the video, it's in gallery mode, so it's going to be real small, but feel free to turn off your camera. I prefer you have them on, but I understand if you don't want to be out there. It's fine. Privacy is important. Other than that, how's everybody's evening?
Fantastic.
Nice. Hey, is anybody running leads right now while they're going through training?
Raise your hands.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so for those of you who are running leads, have you used any of the things we've talked about to this point to help you consummate a sale? I always like to ask a couple different points throughout the training because it seems like every class someone's like, yeah, man, I did that thing we talked about yesterday and it worked last night. So if you have that experience, let us know, all right? We like to share successes. Sales is hard. We got to celebrate the wins. How many of you guys enjoyed the homework last night? Did you just oh, go ahead. Tyler.
Actually, yeah, I had a question in regards to the homework. So, and I don't know if you were already answering this because I kind of came in while you were midway answering your question. But with the 4 closing boxes, when do you incorporate that into the survey?
So God, I always get feedback for a second. Hold on a second. I gotta mute you. Okay, otherwise I'm just hearing an echo. So it varies from house to house. There's some people where they're collaborative and you can have a long conversation at the kitchen table, at which point I plant a lot of seeds right there. There's some houses where people just want to really get to it. They want to get into the inspection to see what's going on. And I'm sure for those of you who are in here who have done this job, you know, sometimes you continue performing your survey as you're doing a measure and inspection. And a lot of times when I'm talking about installation methodology, I will start to plant seeds about the importance of the right company while I'm talking about the way the project is installed. So that's when I'll introduce the 4 box closes. As long as you're bringing it up before you get into company story, you're in good shape. Because we want to be able to talk, you know, when we get into the company story and we start differentiating on how our company does business, I don't want this to be the first time they've heard about the importance of hiring the right contractor. And that pretty much goes for everything we talk about here, where sometimes it happens in the discovery, the needs analysis, sometimes it happens in measure and inspection. That's the beauty of sales too. It's a lot of art. You got to figure out when to pull the right tool out of your toolbox. I hope that answered the question all right.
I have a share as well, Dan. So I did run a lead last night, and we have traditionally, me especially, and I think I've by osmosis have directed Matt. You know, we have a really cool product. It's all aluminum, louvered, rain tight, all of that, and we've focused a lot on the quality of the product, the uniqueness of the product. But one of the game changers yesterday for me was, you know, it's still just metal. I mean, so, you know, last night I really focused on they have, and the patio is a very intimate spot for a lot of families. They had a TV out there, they had nice furniture, they like to sit out there, watch TV, so rather than really hyper focusing on the product, it was all about the, a place, to make memories, to sit out there in the rain, be able to enjoy it more, and really just have it be a new gathering place for their families. So that's pretty cool.
That's huge. That's what it should be. You're selling an emotion, which is the key to selling anything. Selling an idea. That's what we do. You use language to manifest trust and therefore money. And as long as you work for a company that sells a high quality product and carries out your promises on the back end, I have no problem doing that. That's what makes salespeople special. You have to be a good communicator and get people to play a positive movie in their mind. So well done. Did you sell it?
It was still, let us go and see the product. And there's a restaurant right down the street. So they're going to have dinner tonight and we'll see. But no, it wasn't a one meeting close, unfortunately. But it was
I
50
go ahead.
grand too. So
Yeah.
a lot of our sales aren't one-legged closes because it's big, it's pretty big high dollar stuff. And I may be jumping ahead, but one of these days, are you going to talk about financing? Because that is one of our biggest challenges. We're asking, I mean, our average sale is around $30,000-$40,000. Sometimes they're six figures. That's a lot to ask a homeowner to write a check for a deposit for $60,000. And we have a really hard time bringing financing into the conversation.
Oh yeah, we do a deep dive on financing. It's so important these days. Less than 5% of the American population has $10,000 in liquid assets that they could use for a home improvement project.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know how to talk about financing properly, you're leaving 95% of the potential business on the table.
Yeah.
Even if they have the money, you should be leveraging financing. And we'll talk all about that when we get to the closing sequence. It's one of the most important parts of retail closing.
Yeah. Okay, great. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. So as you guys were going through the surveys last night, your needs analysis, were there any creative ways that you came up with to ask certain questions while planting seeds or price conditioning? And if so, does anybody feel comfortable sharing them? Don't everybody talk at once now.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
So, I did window and door sales for the last 3 years. So kitchen remodeling and bathroom remodeling is totally new to me. But one of the things that I always like to do during the survey was to explain why I was asking the question. So when I was looking at the survey that you emailed to me, I looked at the questions that you asked, but I also wanted to explain why I'm asking these questions. And it also depends on the style of the customer, if they're I or S or, whatever style they are. Because some people are they're the what people, and then there's the why people, right?
Yep.
So the why people appreciate it when you kind of explain, well, the reason I'm asking this question, Dan, is because if the house was built before 78, we may have to get, we may need a lead test. And that's why I asked you that question. As opposed to them thinking, why is he asking that question? What is he trying to figure out? Like those are the what people, right? Or the why people. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up.
It's a really strong point because as long as I'm asking a question in a way that the homeowner sees a personal benefit for answering it honestly.
Yeah. What's in it for me?
Right. If they understand that they benefit from being open and honest, they will start talking. If they feel like you're trying to trap them or trying to extract information in order to leverage it later to sell them, they are going to keep the cards close to the vest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how did you find out about us? Oh, I saw the ad on TV. Oh, okay. So did you see the promotion that it was attached to that? That's why I asked. I want to make sure that that you take advantage of any of the promotions that we have available to you.
Yeah, and if you're trying to talk, one of the questions on there is how long have you been dealing with this problem, or, when did you first notice there was an issue, something along those lines. And then we want to ask the follow-up question. So what's changed recently? Why did you decide to handle this now? You can plant the seed and be like, well, I commend you guys on being proactive here with this, because as you know, with what's going on with all the hurricanes down in Florida, we are about to be log jammed on the production side. A state just got wiped off the map. They're gonna have to rebuild that thing. So all of the companies that are manufacturing these products are gonna be working overtime. And especially for the homes that were destroyed, or the businesses that were destroyed that rely on government subsidized insurance policies in high risk areas, they take priority. So like if you have a roof that needs to be done in the next 3 months, you cannot afford to wait. Because as soon as production starts for that stuff, we're not talking about doubling the lead time. You might not be able to get on or in queue for 2025. Even if we're available, we can't get the material. So you got to leverage urgency and talk about that stuff early on, because most homeowners don't understand the network, of different components that affect availability and price point when it comes to the products we sell.
Yeah, and you just created the need for why I should answer that question accurately.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And why the question is important.
Plus, it's an election year. So we have no idea. Like, the economy shifts based on who's in office. The geopolitical relationships we have globally change all the time. Does that affect raw material cost?
Absolutely.
So if you're in a business where you guys sell products where you rely on things like lumber, I used to talk to homeowners about this all the time. Like, guys, right now, just so you guys know, I don't know if you pay attention to like futures markets for things like raw materials, but 12% of the global supply of construction grade lumber comes from Belarus. What's our relationship like over there right now?
Belarus.
So now we're pulling construction materials, but if we have a huge demand here and we only have access to 88% of the global supply of construction grade lumber, what happens to the price? What's going on in the Middle East right now? You sell vinyl windows, vinyl siding. What do they make that out of? Asphalt roofs. It's all petroleum.
Yep.
Talk to people about this stuff. They don't know. The natural disasters are getting more and more serious and more frequent. Supply demand imbalance is going to make these projects become unaffordable for people. And that's the way I would talk to homeowners about it, to create a sense of urgency. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on today. If there's no urgency, they're not doing it. I don't care if they love you and your company and your product. If they don't feel like they have to do it, homeowners procrastinate. Dominic always says, customers would make procrastination clubs. They just never get around to it. That's a fact. You guys talk to homeowners all the time who have a problem in their house. And I know for a fact you've all heard this. I'd be like, when did you guys first notice this? And they'd be like, yeah, we noticed it when we first moved in. I'd be like, oh, did you recently buy the place? No, we've been here about 12 years. What? Your windows have been leaking for 12 years and you're just getting around to it? But that's how people are. It's out of sight, out of mind. We don't want to deal with it until the problem becomes so serious that it can no longer be denied. Now it's an emergency. What happens to price point during an emergency? So I want to talk about this stuff a lot today as we're breaking down how to create a sense of urgency with people. And if we can plant seeds in the survey about this, then when we go and we do our masterful measure and inspection of the property with the homeowner, when they see a problem, we have to create a lot of pain and trauma around it so that they shorten their own timeline and tell us that they have to get the project done soon. All right, were there any other questions that you guys had on the survey that you think would be challenging to ask, or that you came up with creative ways to ask?
We came up with we took some out of our survey and put some back into our survey and some new ones, because one of our questions is, how long have you been thinking about finishing your basement? And it's an interesting question, because no matter what, if they say, well, we just did, and they've been there for 10 years, they're pretty much lying their butts off. I mean, you buy a house thinking to finish the basement. But we added something for the emotion. What is your motivation for finishing your basement?
a good one. Hits them right between the eyes with one of the parts of form that we were talking about yesterday. I used to like to get people to visualize the finished product. So be like, guys, I want you to imagine that this project has been completed and it was done exactly the way you wanted. And the house now looks and performs exactly the way you wish it would. Can you describe what that looks like? Because people think in pictures and not words. And if they actually take the time to visualize it, they're like, well, and then they start to tell you all the little things they want. They expose a lot of hot buttons. And then I just agree with them. I'd be like, oh man, that's awesome. I love people who have a vision for the project. John, you feel the same way? I want to get him involved as well.
Yeah, that's why I always thought the augmented reality software is great to use in a presentation.
Yep. Do you guys do that with VR or is it more like hover? Or one click?
VR.
Wow. That's sweet. So you can drop them into like a 3D representation of their home?
Yep.
Technology, man.
I could take your wall right there and put a door and make you walk through it as well.
That's awesome. How many of you guys are using that sort of visualization tool? That's awesome. What is that program called that you use?
You know, I forget what it's called. I mean, I used it all the time, but I don't remember what it's called. It was
I'm gonna
yeah.
look into it tonight because I've got an Oculus downstairs and I've never used one of those and it's a brilliant idea. We always, when I started at WindowWorks, we were always 6 months away from one click.
Right.
I was there for 2 years. So when I started there, we were 6 months away. When I left there, we were 6 months away. It was always so close to that technology.
Well, it was fairly new even with Anderson. It was only maybe a year. So when I first started, no, they didn't have it. Or they didn't use it. There were programs out there, though, that you could get. Yeah, I remember one of our reps used something. I forget the name. I can't remember the name of it.
Powerful stuff, Andrew.
Yeah, I know. I can find it for you, but I just can't.
If you have access to it, I'd love to hear what it is. So, because I'm like, I'm always trying to stay on the cutting edge of this stuff to help you guys do this job in a more professional and more exciting and artistic way, because that's what it takes to do this at a high level.
Sometimes you can go to the website of the company that you're looking at, like in Anderson, and they have it.
Well, there you go. Is anybody in here secret shop?
Website.
I'll say that again.
You can do it from their website. Take a picture of your door and then, build it, the color, everything you want on it, and then place it where your door is now. I don't know about the walking through it part. I know that we could do that in the home, but I don't know if the access to the website type has that. But as far as building it, yeah, you could do that.
I'm checking that out tonight, and I will report back tomorrow.
Sure.
To wrap up the survey, there is one question that I always had, especially early in my career, I had a hard time bringing up early on. And it's down towards the bottom. Actually, it's the very last question on here. To help us tailor this project to an affordable budget plan, please select a monthly investment range below. 100 to 150, 150 to 200, 200 to 250, and so on and so forth. So, why is that challenging to ask people in a survey?
Because you kind of have to give them a price of what it's going to cost, which I don't think is something so terrible to start with. I mean, I remember many times walking into a home and within 5 minutes, giving them a rough idea that, previous customers that purchase what you may be purchasing today were in the range of 40 or 50,000, which was a monthly payment of 3 to 400, and then move past it, not get stuck in it, but move past. By the way, here's another one that was around the same as yours. This one was around this amount, 50,000, and the monthly payment on that was between 450 and 550. And then move past it. Don't get stuck in it where they start asking a million questions. It was more like, just to break the ice. Because some
And
people
that's,
have no clue. They're just, they're thinking the whole thing is going to be $2,000. I want to give them a little idea, but I also don't want to blow them out.
and that's,
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? Because we don't want to freak people out and talk them out of
Right.
it. The issue is we haven't seen what we're dealing with yet. As far as the project goes, I have no idea what the scope of work is. They don't know who we are or what products we sell. In my experience, this was hard to ask because I didn't earn the right to ask it yet. Hey guys, how much do you want to spend on my product? And they go, we don't even know what you're selling.
Right.
But I do see it as an opportunity to price condition and give a broad range. So the way I would just kind of drop a seed in there is just go, guys, just so you know, I have no idea if we're the type of company that you want to work with or if we have a solution to your problem. I haven't even seen your problem yet. I don't even know if we can do it. But I do know that the vast majority of people I talk to, they don't have 5 figures laying around for a home improvement project like this. And most people end up wanting to see some options to break it down monthly. Have you guys considered that? And if they say, yeah, I'd be like, all right, well, just so you know, when we get to the end, if you like what we're talking about, if you're interested in doing this, I have a lot of different options. So just let me know a monthly range you're trying to keep it inside of because I don't want to show you one option that's not affordable. That's a waste of everybody's time. Yes, sir.
When I drop that every once, or I say that in a certain way, I mean, every once in a while we do get no, and somebody says cash, but they don't necessarily mean cash. They mean, well, we're gonna go to our bank and we're gonna get cash. What's the response that you would say if say, no, we want to do cash. We're not interested in financing. Or in what they mean is we don't want to finance with you.
So to Austin's point, I don't want to drill down on this yet because they might say cash, but they think it's $3,000 when it's 20. They might say cash, but we're not doing this 6 months from now where we get a tax return and I got a year-end bonus that we're going to put towards it. They might say cash, but they mean a HELOC where they pull it out of their house. We're going to put that in our back pocket. My goal here is to let them know, A, that I offer financing and see if they bite, and B, price condition with the 5-figure mention so that they know this is a 5-figure investment. It's going to be north of 10 grand up to 99,999. Big old range, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we have a line that we say that, hey, folks, when it comes to your project, you can pay by cash, you can pay by check, you can pay by even a credit card, or you can pay by a combination of both. You can even pay by a home improvement loan, or we can help you finance it and get you into a low, comfortable monthly investment. Folks, if we are the company for you, how are you looking to pay for a project of this size? And they say cash or finance. We said, great. Most of our customers, just 92% of our customers do finance, but we try to keep it within a range of, my customers, and we already know how big the house is, right? So we say 550 to 450 or 500 to 550 to 500 or 475. So we give them only a couple options and we go on. We do not linger on it.
yeah, and you could even sprinkle in before you get into that conversation, like, everybody knows that remodeling a basement is one of the most expensive home improvement projects out there. There's a lot that goes into it. I always like starting statements with everybody knows because they don't want to be the one person who doesn't know that.
Right.
So if you're dropping a truth bomb on them, I say that about every product that I'm selling. Everybody knows that remodeling a bathroom by square foot, it's the most expensive room in your house to remodel. Everybody knows that replacing a roof is one of the most complicated and expensive home improvement projects you can do. Whatever you're selling, I want to plant that seed early on because they don't know any better. But for some reason, homeowners think that even though they know you get what you pay for in all other walks of life, when it comes to home improvement, you should get awesome products installed by expert people and it should cost nothing. So we have to overcome that and start to change their mind early on. So drop some of these lines in there just to plant that seed. I don't want to drill down on it yet. I don't want to get too detailed. If they ask me, well, what kind of financing do you offer? I'd be like, listen, I'll show you all the options we have available. We've got some awesome you know, ways that you could take care of this where you're not breaking the bank. But let's see if we're even a good fit first. I always
I
want to
like
read
that.
it back. Don't put the cart before the horse here. So plant the seed, but move on. You want to stay on task. We want to do this one step at a time.
I like
And
that.
as
All right, were
far
there
as,
any other, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
a commitment on any monthly, so you're just planting the seed, you don't, so I'm used to layering. So we've been in the house for 10 years, you know, later on they say what stopped you from doing it? So I would ask the question, so you guys been in the house for 10 years. You've been thinking about it off and on for 10 years. What stopped you from doing the project? And they tell me, and then I roll into, well, that's exactly why 95% of people finance a project like this. Hypothetically, if and when you were to do something like this, what would most likely fit into your budget? As
I love
far as-
that.
Yeah, are you okay with that? That works, or should
Oh,
I
yeah,
like,
and it's,
be strong on getting the commitment?
I don't think it was strong at all. I thought that it was a really clean way to insert social proof, and it was a natural transition from point to point. So it seemed very conversational.
Okay,
It also shows that you know what you're talking about. You guys have been thinking about this for 10 years. I talk to a lot of people who say the same thing. And that's why so many of them finance it, because they know the longer you wait, the higher the price gets.
Yep.
Something along those lines.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Anything else you guys want to touch on with the survey before we move on? We're doing 2 steps today. So it's got a lot to get to. All right, if you think of something, don't be shy. All right, we're going to jump into step 4, which is the measure and inspection. So, what is the primary purpose of the measure and inspection for those of you who have done this before?
Accurate proposals.
Accurate proposals, that is definitely part of it, but that is not the primary objective.
Make sure it's something we can do, create some pain points maybe.
Pain points. We want to create a sense of urgency. That is absolutely right. That's the primary objective. All of it is important. We need to get accurate measurements so that we can price the job correctly. We want to continue to really build on the fact that we are knowledgeable, credible experts. But we have to get the homeowner to realize that the problem in their house is worse than they thought, which is almost always true. And the reason for that is that people usually call you when they have a problem, but the thing they're noticing is not actually the problem. It's a symptom that was caused by the primary problem. So they've had a leak in their roof. Do you guys know how long the average leak persists in a roof before somebody notices it? 2.5 years.
Really?
Yeah. And it makes sense because a lot of leaks are small and water comes in a little bit at a time, and then it's got to run down the rafters and fall into the foundation and get through that and then get through the drywall ceiling. And by the time you see a little spot, it's been leaking for a while. So they're aware of a problem, but they have no idea about what actually caused it or how bad the true issue is. So we have something called the cycle of motivation here. And we want to walk through it. It's a little flow chart, 4 steps. A lot of salespeople try to go from problem right to solution. And it's an issue because it's out of sight, out of mind, and they don't feel the pain. So what we have to do is talk to them about the problem they're experiencing. Then we have to go on a measure and inspection and discover what actually caused it and create a sense of awareness. Once they're aware of what caused the problem, we got to blow that problem up to create pain and trauma. So it's problem, awareness, pain and trauma, and then we can provide a solution. Now, as we go through this process today, I'm going to show you guys a lot of tools. Thank you, Matt. I'm going to show you a lot of tools that we use in the house during measurement and inspection. And I want you guys to, we talked about integrity yesterday. I want to make sure that you guys are not manipulating data and lying to people or misrepresenting what's going on in their house. If there's one thing that I have learned over a long time in this industry is enough people have neglected enough property that there is enough work for everybody. So you don't have to make stuff up. All right. But right off the top, how many of you guys have performed a measurement before and an inspection? What kind of tools do you bring with you?
A measure, cell phone.
Tape measure and a cell phone.
I'm in the bathrooms usually, so just showers.
Yeah. Cell phone's one of the greatest freaking tools ever now that we have them. Pretty awesome.
Credit
Say
card
again?
for, a credit card for Windows to show gaps and cracks.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, not all tools have to be high tech. We're going to show you some high tech tools and some very low tech tools today. So right off, moisture meter. What do you use a moisture meter for?
Basement will try and detect moisture maybe in the studs, or if they have a finished drywall, wall. Where the things they may not have noticed before, or even a hydrometer, we might actually be able to prove if they have a dehumidifier that's, they say is set to 30%, we'll hold up our hydrometer and be like, well, you're actually, even though that thing's running, you're still at like 60%, which is when mold grows. Like, so, yeah, foundation, concrete, we'll take a look at all that stuff.
Yeah. If you notice efflorescence on a block wall, I'm throwing a moisture meter on that bad boy immediately.
Temperature gun.
Temperature gun. For sure. So let's go through some of these. I'll show you guys what was in my tool bag. We're going to talk about each tool and then how to use it in a way that shows people you're a pro. So, tape measure. This is a FatMax 25 footer with a 10-foot standout. I strongly recommend you get a legitimate tape measure. As a guy who has left tape measures in many houses, I recommend that you have a backup tape measure. Okay? If you're doing exterior projects where you're measuring things that are larger than 25 feet, carry a 100-foot roll tape that you can pin. If you're measuring large buildings, residential or commercial, get a rolling wheel with a counter on it. Measure multiple times. If you guys are selling roofs and you're relying on eagle views, do not rely on eagle views. Trust but verify. Those things are done by satellite images, and I've had it happen where I trusted one. I sold a job based on the measurements they gave me, and I ended up being off with a predominant pitch that I thought was a 612. It was a 712. Does that change the price of your project?
Yeah.
That's how you get paid a mini. So I want to take that if I'm measuring slope on a roof, just to finish off that thought, we have digital pitch gauges and we've got analog pitch gauges. Not a bad tool to have. It's called a Tahima Slant 100. You throw that bad boy on there. It's literally just a little level with an air bubble. And as you turn this, you rotate the level and it's going to tell you exactly what the pitch is. So I want to check everything in triplicate if I can, because it's going to help me price jobs correctly. And if a homeowner sees you doing that, what is their level of trust in your level of professionalism? Super high. That's what we want. So make sure you're measuring multiple times. When I'm measuring windows or doors or shower systems, the way you measure needs to be different too, because differentiation builds trust and value. So if I'm measuring a window, how do you guys measure windows and doors? Width and height. I want to measure width right at the base of the lower sash, right at the meeting rail, right at the top of the window. Then I measure vertically left to right, so left, center, right. And then I go corner to corner to square the opening. As a sales rep, do I need all those measurements?
No.
Why am I doing it?
To show your custom-made window and to let the customer know that this window is 1/8 of an inch off from the next window.
Yep. So they're not buying stock size windows anymore. That means you just killed 80% of your competition. Well, the last guy didn't do all those measurements. And I just be like, he didn't? Huh. Which immediately undercuts the credibility of the last guy. Little things make a huge difference. I'd be like, how does he know if it's a square opening? If this is like every other house I've ever been in, there's not a right angle in this place anymore. There probably wasn't the day they built this sucker, right? So we want to see what's going on. We're building a custom product. When our guy comes out to double check our measurements, he's going to do it the same way. Otherwise, you end up like my grandpa. I cut it 3 times, it's still too short. We don't want to be there, right? So measure it the right way. How many of you guys have flashlights? Hopefully everybody. Some people just rely on the one on their phone. I sold a lot of different products, and I was in attics and I was outside a lot, especially for evening appointments. Any of you guys run 6 o'clock appointments? I was in Wisconsin. In the middle of winter, it gets dark at like 4 o'clock. If I'm selling siding or roofing or windows and I have to do an exterior inspection, I want a real flashlight. The one on my phone is all right, but I have 1,000 lumen rechargeable. I have a 5,000 lumen spotlight. It's a staged spotlight, so you can change how bright it is. And then I would carry a tripod, 2 20-volt battery system, like a spotlight you'd have on the job site. Keep that in my trunk. And the reason I bought that thing is because the amount of people who were looking to buy siding from me when I was actually in Illinois, not Wisconsin, 6 o'clock appointments, they'd be like, oh man, we love everything, but we can't really tell what the color is going to look like because it's dark out. So I would set up spotlights and I'd light up their entire freaking house. And then I would hold up large panels of siding and I'd be like, now you can see. Let's pick a color that you like. And the secondary benefit of that is that the homeowners, the looky-loos, are looking out the windows. And now we have a higher likelihood of a conversation happening where I might get a referral. So it's a win-win. So light is key. I like rechargeable ones because who the hell wants to carry batteries around all the time? Now, to that point, if any of your tools have rechargeable batteries, bring a charger. Now, you can tell how long I've been doing this, so don't make fun of me. This one's called a Real Juice. It's from like 2015. But this is just a portable battery pack so that I can recharge everything from my iPad to my flashlights. Or, you know, if you get a customer who's really stubborn, you can just... Guys, don't murder your customers, all right? I know it's hard. Moving right along, some of the flashlights obviously are just light. Some of them are designed as tools for discovery. So this is called a UV Beast. Anybody ever use one of these? It's a black light. Buck, what do you use it for?
Find droppings in pee.
Yeah. Any organic material or residue that is left behind on a porous surface shows up, lights up like a Jackson Pollock. You gotta love it.
You said it a lot nicer than I did.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it more succinctly than I did, for sure. So I was first introduced to that product when I was selling showers. And sometimes you go into a house and it's very obvious why you're there. And sometimes you go into a house and somebody is anal retentive and everything is spotless. They've cleaned it all up before you got there. And they do that so that, one, they're not embarrassed, and two, you can't put, you know, the screws to them when it comes to urgency. Holy crap, I can see why you called us here. So I went into a woman's house and she was just like that. And I complimented her immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, smells amazing in here. I feel like I could eat off the floor. Man, how do you keep your house this clean? And we got into the bathroom and the shower was the same way. She had just scrubbed it. You could smell the bleach. And it was an old fiberglass shower. So I knew I wasn't going to find any really damning visual evidence with the naked eye. So I pull out that tool. And if you guys use abrasive cleaners on fiberglass, when you start to scratch the gel coat that protects the substrate, it creates tiny little micro etches in it. So the more this person cleaned it, the more they scratched that gel coat, which guarantees that there's residual chemical in those little cracks. It guarantees that that's a little safe harbor for all the minerals that are in water. So calcium, iron, magnesium. And if I hit it with that flashlight, whole thing lights up, which I did. And she went, oh, gotcha. It's true. And I was like, listen, you clean the heck out of this thing. This is why I use this tool to show people, because obviously showering in an area that is incredibly clean is important to you. It's important to, well, it's important to me. I shouldn't say it's important to all of us, but we all know that's not true. You guys see some nasty freaking showers out there. But every time you clean this thing, you're actually creating an environment where residual chemical can collect and where a bunch of, all the little minerals and bacteria can hide, all the organics from your shampoo and conditioner. One of the horrible things about that is if they're this type of person, they have little kids, when they fill up the bathtub after they just got done scrubbing it with bleach or any of the scrubbing bubbles or freaking Ajax, whatever it is that they're using, you put a little baby in there in a bathtub full of water, and all that residual chemical is now in the water. You're trying to keep it clean and safe for your kid, and in fact, you're exposing them to toxic chemicals. Minute amounts, but you think about constant exposure. Plus, every time you get in there, the pads of your feet are absorbing that stuff. It's just, there are better ways to do this. But you got to show them first. So that's why I love that tool. Now, moisture meter was mentioned. Does everybody have a moisture meter? It's really expensive. This one was about 12 bucks. If you don't have one of these, before I get done with this sentence, you should be on Amazon ordering one. I've sold millions of dollars of interior and exterior products because of this freaking tool. And I love it because you can make stupid, corny dad jokes. I'd always pull this out and ask homeowners, you guys know what this is? No, I put it on here. You guys hear the alarm? I don't know if you can hear it through the speaker. It beeps real loud.
Listen how he uses it.
So I'd hold it up. You guys know what this is? Stud finder. I'm just messing with you. It's a moisture meter. Depending on the person, that one kills in the house. So dumb. And walk up to John and put it up to his shirt and like, it's not working. Anyway, this thing is designed so that it measures the moisture content behind a wall. My X-ray vision doesn't work very well, so I want to see inside the wall. If we're selling showers or any product that is simultaneously inside and outside, like a window or door, this is imperative. You got to have one. You put it on the wall. And if we're talking showers, I always start opposite the wet wall at the top, and then I slowly work my way down. This sets a baseline because we want this to be scientific. So starting at the top, work my way down. Then I'm going to go to the soap dish wall, which is the wide wall on the back, top to bottom, left to right, or right to left towards the wet wall. As we get closer and closer to the wet wall, the percentage on the screen starts to go up. The alarm starts to go off. At which point I go, oof, and the homeowner says, what?
What's wrong?
Yeah. What's wrong? What does that mean? Thanks for playing, Mary. Well, that just means you guys saw it was 12% moisture content on the wall opposite of the shower head. Now we get over here, and what is it at? And I put it up there, and they're like 50%. Like 50% means there's moisture behind the tile at a far higher level than over where it should be at the base. It's 4 times higher here. And guys, if we've got that much moisture behind the wall, what do you think is growing back there?
Mold.
Force them to say that to you. Ask the question so the homeowner says, mold, 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 mold.
How would you use it for roofing?
So for roofing, the cool thing about this is the top rolls back, and I don't know if you can see it. There's 2 tiny little prongs up here. Now, I do a combination measurement when it comes to moisture if I'm in an attic. I want to see if we've got visible signs of moisture, so any sort of mold issues, striations in the decking. If we've got convection problems, it tells me that we're going to have problems with freeze thaw. So if you ever see that the glue has baked out of the decking inside of a roof, you're going to know that it's an unhealthy attic space. You have problems with ventilation. And where there's problems with ventilation, when it's hot and humid, there's problems with humidity retention. So I want to see what the surface humidity is in the decking, depending on the time of year. I'll check the rafters as well. And then I'll stick the prongs into the wood to see if we've got variance in moisture content on the surface versus the interior of the wood. If I'm there during the dry season where I see evidence of moisture, but it's not currently wet, I want to do a couple things. One, I want to pivot to this little guy This is called a Bluetooth enabled digital Wi-Fi microscope. Try saying that 10 times fast. Anybody use a tool like this? This is pretty sweet because it is about 35 bucks, so anybody can afford it. It Bluetooth connects to your iPad. It takes pictures and you can magnify from 50 to 1,000 times magnification with it. This works on selling a number of different products. Thing lights up. You can drag it along a surface. So if I see that there's moisture, there's evidence of moisture, but it's not currently wet, I want to blow up the areas where I can see considerable moisture damage because there's usually, if it's wet, dry, you get dry rot. And there's going to be cracks and striations in the wood. If you blow that thing up 1,000 times, a tiny crack looks like the Grand Canyon. And then I can show the homeowner that they've got a compromised substructure. Then I get out on the roof, I do the same thing. If I'm looking through an asphalt shingle and there's a bunch of granule wash or discoloration, sometimes there's cracking due to thermal expansion, thermal shock. And I can look right down through a crack and I can see the fiberglass mat on a shingle with something like this. Same thing's true if they have a tile shower. If they've got grout in between the tile, grout's made of sand, you blow it up 1,000 times, they can see that's not waterproof. Water's going right through it. The tile's not the problem, the grout is.
What is that?
Oh, go ahead.
What's that called again? What's that called?
This is called a digital Wi-Fi microscope. It's Bluetooth enabled. The brand is called Sky Basic, but you can literally, if you see the picture of this, they're all the same. You can order this on Amazon. It'll be here quickly. And I like it because you can make a photo gallery as you're doing an inspection so that you can go back through it with the homeowner. Hey, remember in the bedroom we saw this around the window? If you're outside and you see that that caulk has cracked around windows or doors, you blow the crack up. Does water care how big a crack is?
No.
No, it carved the Grand Canyon. If it gets in, it's in. And then it's over. Everything we sell is designed to keep water out of places water's not supposed to go. This is a great way to show homeowners that even the smallest crack shows failure. And as soon as one part of the system fails, the whole house of cards comes down, right? It's over. So we got to solve the problem permanently. When you use a tool like that, that can tee up a conversation about the difference between acrylic-based caulk and silicones or elastomers as well. And the importance of using the right sealant so that you don't have to get out there and scrape caulk and reseal it every 18 months in order to maintain water resistance. And then the tool we have for that is pretty simple. This is just a little cylinder, clear cylinder. We get these from OSI. It's got high density, low expansion foam in the top end. The cylinder's full of water. And then it's got the sealant in there. So it has the OSI elastomer in there. This bottom cap is actually sealed on there with this material. So I can show the homeowner, it doesn't matter if it's our foam or our sealant. You shake this thing all over the place. I'm holding it over my laptop. Oh no. You don't have to worry about this thing ever leaking water. But the reason contractors don't use this is this shit's 20 bucks a tube and caulk's $2 a tube. We'd rather spend a little bit more using the proper material so that you don't have to get up on a ladder every 2 years and re-caulk your windows. We didn't even charge you 10 times as much, guys. So plant those seeds with the tools during the inspection, and then when you come back to different components like this to sell people on differentiating parts of your system, you can tie it all together. All right. Now we get into some of the fun stuff. As if that wasn't awesome enough. Some of my favorite tools include thermal imaging cameras. FLIR. So this is called an MR176. This is a bit overkill. Back in 2017 when I bought this, it was like 600 bucks. I think this model is about 1,100 now. You don't have to go that crazy. You can buy one that plugs into your phone. It costs about $250. But this is a combo tool. This is a FLIR camera. It's a moisture meter on the back. You can screw the top off, and it's a psychrometer. So I can go up into an attic and get ambient humidity temperature or humidity readings. I strongly recommend it. It's fun. It's interesting. It's expensive, so it shows you're professional. You invested in your tools. And my favorite part about this is I don't have to argue with anybody about what's going on in their house. I cannot stand having any level of argument with a homeowner about the inefficiency of the product they have. You ever have a homeowner tell you, our energy bills are fine, our windows are doing just great, and it's some builder's grade piece of crap? Well, if it's a hot sunny day, I'm going to the windows on the southern exposure and I'm going to hold this up and it's going to be glowing like the freaking sun. And the wall is going to be blue and the window's going to be bright orange. And I'm going to be like, holy cow. And if it's a cold winter day, I'm going to go to the house or the windows on the north side of the house that don't have exposure to the sun because that's where you're going to have the most drastic temperature variance and do the same thing. Plus, how many of you guys ever run one window leads? You ever get somebody who's looking to replace one window? Did you get out of bed and drive 2 hours to sell one window?
Of course not.
Heck no. I don't get out of bed for less than $1,000. That's it. This helps you increase your average ticket like you would not believe. Because I'm here to look at that window, but guys, are all these windows the same age to your knowledge? Well, since I'm here anyway, let's do a complimentary energy audit so we can see where the highest performing windows are and where the lowest performing windows are. It's going to let us see if the seals are popped as well.
Especially if you sell siding too. That's one of the most crucial tools in the world.
How do you use
your
it for
house is
siding?
built? Yeah, your house is built in 68, huh? You probably got R11 at best. Let's get you up to code.
Yeah, plus the sensitivity on that's awesome. So if it's a cold day, you can show people thermal bridging in their house. So if we're trying to sell insulation-backed vinyl siding where we can wrap an R5 insulated blanket around your house, if I can show you a thermal image of your home and every single stud, every 16 inches is a lighter color than the insulated pocket next to it, I'd be like, guys, if we took all the studs in your house and lined them all up end to end, how much surface area would we have there? Like one entire wall of your home? And that's a thermal bridge that's sucking the heat right through the wall and throwing it out into the yard. What if we were able to wrap that in an R5 blanket to stop that thermal bridging? Massive savings in energy. Not to mention, what happens when hot meets cold? What forms? Condensation. So if you have thermal bridging and it's 20 below zero, but it's 70 degrees inside, and the hot touches the cold inside the wall, what do you think's growing in there?
Mold.
That's it. I don't want to argue about it. I want to prove it. I want to discover the problem with the homeowner and then ask them questions where they give me those answers and I just agree with them. I'd be like, yeah, we see this all the time. This is a serious problem that no one knows about. Yeah, Buck.
Yeah, no, you're right on, and I'm gonna get on your coattails. This is a serious problem nobody knows about. When you put drywall in a basement, you have the studs every 16 on center, and it is a thermal bridge that if you put all those studs together on a 20-foot wall, you got a lot of heat going out of there, where as opposed to our Everlast exterior wall system panels that have the silver glow, which is a closed cell foam on 4x8s, and it's a continuous wall. So keep going on that. It's fantastic what you're saying.
I love that for roofing too, because you can pull up in front of a house in the middle of the winter and tell which houses have adequate ventilation and insulation in their attic. We can see it from the street. Yeah, every house has snow on the roof except the one I'm at. Yes, that is an unhealthy attic system. This is going to be gross. I better put my respirator on. Yeah, Jason knows what I'm talking about. So if you can show them a thermal image, that's nice. Plus, you know how it goes. It gets so bad in some attics that you can actually see the roof decking bowing between the rafters from the street. That is due to decades of improperly functioning attic space. And when you get up there, the amount of mold that's going to be growing on that decking is truly disgusting. So bring the tools. I'm telling you, these tools make a world of difference. Now, if I show them the thermal camera, I also want to give them a true comparison from surface temperature to surface temperature, because you can change the sensitivity on that tool, where it can change colors based on 1 degree variance, or it can be 10 degrees, right? So that's where somebody mentioned temperature gun, little laser thermometer. I always want to double up my tools so I can really prove a point, make it scientific and interesting for the homeowner. So I show them the thermal image and I go, guys, what does that mean? And I shoot the wall. I'm like, all right, so the wall, 70 degrees, the casing on this window, 61 degrees, the middle of the glass, 42 degrees. Holy crap. Second law of thermodynamics, guys, heat migrates to cold. Where's all your heat going? Right out the window. If you guys pulled in the driveway every day after work and you had a bunch of dollar bills laying around the yard, you'd pick them up, wouldn't you? Isn't that what's going on right here? Let me show you how we can fix this. I want that wall to be monochromatic. And we can do that. We have technology now where you can't tell the difference from an insulative value between your window and your wall. To the window, to the wall, right? All right.
And I recommend for anybody on if you're using that FLIR technology or anything, use before and afters for future sales. When I did my home, that was something I did because I ripped to the studs, I re-insulated everything, I put up new sheathing, and then I put an additional layer of insulation. It used to be purple and colorful in all sorts of different spots. And then when I was done, it was just one color. It was beautiful. So
That's
and I
awesome.
use that for before and afters on upcharges left and right. And I can't explain how many times people went up just to rip to the studs, do new R15 insulation in between the 2x4s, put the OSB on, moisture barrier, put up another layer of insulation just to really get that there. So it's pretty cool.
It's a great point. I mean, I used to sell the perfect attic system, which was a combination of bringing you up to R49 insulation, putting baffles in all the way around all the rafter pockets to maximize ventilation, putting up a multi-layer thermal barrier to the rafters so that we were actually drawing the air up and reflecting radiation back out while keeping the heat in the house, and then air sealing all the penetrations that led from the living space into the attic. Well, blowing in insulation is awesome, right? Putting up that thermal barrier is awesome. Air sealing is awesome. But if you put them all together, we're solving all three ways that houses lose energy. Radiation, convection, well, in the attic, convection and conduction. And then obviously air infiltration. We want to keep the living area, we want to keep the air that's supposed to be in the living area in the living area. That's why it's called the perfect attic system. So talking about this stuff with people is important. They don't know how their house works. How many of you guys have ever paid attention to where the supplies are in your house, the heat supplies, if you have forced air? Where do they put them? In the floor. Shannon's pointing down. Yep. What part of the floor?
Next to like a window or a door so many times. Stupid. Drives me nuts.
It's under windows and doors.
Uh-huh.
Supplies are on the exterior walls and they blanket windows and doors. Returns are in the middle of the house, usually high up on the wall. Builders aren't dumb. They lose money on kitchens and bathrooms because why do people buy houses? Kitchens and bathrooms. When you guys bought a house, did you ever take the time to do a deep inspection on the windows? How much attention did you guys pay to doors when you start looking at houses? You walk through one at every freaking house. But builders know that homeowners don't look at doors and windows. They just make sure that they're there. And then they're like, I'm going to go check out the master bedroom. Let's check out, oh, look at this kitchen, honey. So they buy the absolute crappiest builder's grade windows and doors they can. And then they blanket them with supplies so that they're going to be cold and drafty and absolute garbage, but you won't feel it because the heat blows up right in front of it. It picks up the cold air that's coming in. And you're comfortable. The only time you feel it is when you get your energy bill at the end of the month. But let's be honest, you guys don't pay attention to that, right? It's just on auto pay. So you got to talk to how all these systems work together, why builders do it that way, and where the true deficiencies lie in this home. And the easiest way to do that is by teaching people as if they're 5 years old. Show them colorful pictures. Keep them engaged. Wait, what's this look like to you? It's fun with a FLIR camera because the adults and their little kids respond the exact same way. So we're all big raccoons. We got to keep them on their toes. You know what I mean? Now, if you're selling roofs or siding or anything where you got to get up on a ladder, how many of you guys like getting up on extension ladders? Jason, you're freaking weird, dude. Some
I
people-
hand measured over like 2,400 houses in like a 3-year span. So it's just part of the game, man.
Listen, I think that getting on a roof and walking it is providing value and, you know, the specificity that it's just second to none. But a lot of companies don't want you to do it because there's insurance, you know, ramifications there.
Yeah, now we got all these digital measuring tools, so it's kind of eliminates it. You take your reference measurement at floor 1, you don't have to get on floor 2 and 3. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And now we've got drones, so you can fly a drone up there and take, you know, high def video and all that, which I love. Anything to keep me off a ladder. I lived on extension ladders for 7 years, winding door springs. Hard pass. I don't need to do that anymore.
You're good on that.
I'm good on that. But I do want to be able to see damage from the ground, so I strongly recommend high quality pair of binoculars. Because where should the homeowner be when you're doing the measure and inspection?
Next to you.
Next to you. So if I know there's a problem with step flashing around a chimney hasn't been tuck pointed in years, whatever it may be, and I see that's going to be a problem, I want to look at it. I always draw a picture of the roofing system, and I actually notate all the penetrations coming through it, and I show them all the weak points. Here's all the valleys. This is where we're going to see problems in the attic. Here, take a look right up there. And I have them look through the binoculars so that they go, holy cow. I'd be like, yeah, when's the last time you guys got on your roof? Never. Have you guys been in your attic recently? Guys, how often do Americans get up in their attics? How many of you have been in your attic in the last 2 years?
I thought people go there at Christmas time and fall to get their fall decor. And when they go camping, that's when I go. I go to get my fall decor and my Christmas decorations.
Oh, yeah. You put on the robe and the long gloves and you watch the old timey video of Christmases past. Every time, not every time, I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but the vast majority of the time that I was talking to people, I'd be like, when's the last time you got in your attic? And they go, we've never been in our attic. And I just go, whew. All right, well, I'm going up. We got to see what's going on in there. And then I'll put on a vented regulator because, one, I want to protect myself. There's a bunch of crap up there you don't want to be a part of, especially if you have regular exposure to it. And two, if I put on a regulator, what does it tell the homeowner?
Not safe, potential for danger and problems.
Yep. Dangerous up there. Plus, I'm a pro. The last guy didn't even get in there. So I'm doing the dirty work. People want to reward you with their business when you do work for them. That's why measure and inspection is so important. You got to take your time. Now, the last thing I will say about inspection tools, this one is a little overkill. Well, I just lied. This is not the last thing I'm going to say about inspection tools. But if you want to make really compelling data for people, if you want to make it easy for them to see, I've got a kit here with a whole bunch of fun stuff. So this is a little GoPro, little camera. You can Bluetooth this right to your iPad. And I've got every freaking accessory you could possibly think of, from headband mounts to wrist mounts to telescoping selfie sticks, so that I can do, you know, I can reach up high with this stuff. You make videos to show for people, or show people, especially in an attic. I don't want the homeowner coming up to the attic with me. That's the one place where I'm going alone. They don't know how to joist hop safely. And I don't want them falling through the drywall. So I'm going to take videos and pictures of all this stuff so I can show them on the iPad. You can even Bluetooth it to your iPad so they can watch it. You can take them on a virtual walkthrough. Hey, why don't you guys sit down here in the comfortable air conditioning? I'm going to go up there and lose 10 pounds in your attic. You guys can see what I'm looking at. All right. So that's some of the high-tech gadgetry that we like to use. Not everything has to be high-tech. Somebody mentioned, I can't remember who it was, using a credit card to find gaps around windows. What I like to use is a lighter. So if you got old wood windows or doors and they're drafty, just walk up, light the flame right next to it. Flame starts dancing. And you just proved that this window's super drafty. Check out windows on the Western Exposure if you're going to do that. The homeowner goes, wow. I'd be like, yeah, does it get really cold in here in the winter? Like, I noticed you got an Afghan on that sofa. Is that where you hang out when you guys are watching Netflix?
I'm kind of burning out too, guys.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I was just saying, I don't know if that would bring a ladder up into an attic, but we're saying the basement might be a good idea rather than joists.
Yeah, don't bring it up in an attic. There are a couple. I'm sorry, what?
Did you say that you do that specifically with wood windows?
Yeah, because wood windows tend to expand and contract a lot over the years, so they're super rattly. Anybody live in an old house with old wood windows? So this house that I'm in right now was built in 1840. We just had the windows replaced last year. But before we did, they were the wood windows with the Coke bottle glass, no balance system. It was literally lift the sash and put a metal pin into the frame. And they were designed to keep birds out of the house. That was it. It's like the worst windows ever. So when a car would drive by, I'd be like, you could hear everything rattling.
Yeah.
When we put the new ones in, we put in triple pane Okno windows, which are freaking amazing. And you can't even hear cars going by anymore. My wife, to this day, this has been a year we've had these things. She's like, it is so quiet in here. It's so warm in here. I was like, yeah. We took out the Model 1 window and we just put in like space age technology. This is awesome, right? And it's insulated with foam. It's not insulated with, I don't know, horsehair or whatever the hell was in there before. This is serious stuff. So it's night and day. So people have wood windows. They're going to be drafty. They're going to rattle. Dominic always uses this stupid rock and roll Hall of Fame window. He'd lift it with the homeowner and be like, we call this a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame window. Shake, rattle, and roll, baby. Dumb. But he'd get a bunch of laughs. When we show them our window, and the thing is weather tight like you wouldn't believe, and they open and close with one finger, operates all smooth. You'd be like, guys, the air infiltration rating on this is so freaking low. And then I would let them visualize it. You guys know what the air infiltration rating requirement is for windows today in order to be Energy Star rated?
0.3.
Yeah, less than or equal to 0.3 CFM. Do homeowners know what that means?
No.
What does that mean? Do window salespeople know what that means?
The air rate for the infiltration, cubic feet per minute.
Cubic feet per minute, yeah. So 0.3 cubic feet per minute is a little bit less than a third of a cubic foot. What does that look like? Rubik's Cube. So if I'm selling windows, I'm going to be like, guys, to get a window that is Energy Star rated, they're saying that when the window is closed and locked, it is okay for this much air to pass through that window frame every minute of every day. How many windows do you guys have in your house? 15. If I punched a hole in your wall that was the size of 15 Rubik's Cubes, would your home be efficient? Then why is that the Energy Star standard? That's ridiculous to me. So the window that we offer has a CFM rating of 0.03. It is 10 times more efficient than an Energy Star standard window that is sold in the market today. And we don't even charge you 10 times as much. A little visual representation of what that means to people. The amount of people who look at that and be like, are you serious? And be like, can't make it up. It's right here on the NFRC sticker. See it? And I show them the NFRC sticker.
Yeah, but how long does it maintain that?
That's a great question. Well, let me show you. Thanks for playing. I'll get into
how long will that actually last, Dan?
Oh, buddy, let me show. I mean, that's where I get into my pitch, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
So I want to be able to use visuals. That's the whole point. We got to create a sense of urgency for people. If there's no urgency, they're not going to do it. If you can get a homeowner to tell you that the problem's way worse than they thought, or that there's mold growing, it's really important. If you guys want to, I think this is the last thing I'm going to show you, because not all of these pertain to everybody. But if you're using a thermal imaging camera and you want to just show them a two-dimensional like visual of where the inefficiencies lie, and then you're going to take that information and go to like a heat lamp presentation with a window or door. Does anybody ever use this stuff? This is thermochromatic paper. How many of you guys are old enough to remember mood rings? If you're embarrassed, don't raise your hand. So how did mood rings work? You guys remember? My hands are freezing in here, so this is not working the way I want it to. So mood rings
Based off temperature.
Body temperature.
Yeah, change color based off temperature. So thermochromatic paper is the exact same way. So it starts off as shiny and black, and I don't know if you can see this, but when it heats up, changes color. Hard to tell on camera. So if you do a heat lamp presentation and you're showing them the reflective qualities of the low E on your glass, and none of the energy passes through your glass pack, this stays black. And if you use it on their window, it's going to change color right before their eyes. Interesting way to engage them. If you're talking to parents and they have little kids, this allows you to give them a little vacation from parenting, because I can draw the kids in and be like, this is going to be a fun science experiment. You want to see this? Fun stuff, man. I'm telling you, this stuff works. And you can get 3 of those for like 18 bucks on Amazon. But if you buy today, they've got an unbelievable special. All right. All of these things are in the book. High tech, low tech. The last one that I don't know if anybody uses, but you can use this no matter what the product is. There's a tool that we would use that's super low tech and inexpensive that would prevent cancellation, because it allows us to stay in the house after we leave the house. And that is going to be painter's tape. Yep. So when you are doing an inspection and you find damage, cracked window, mold, blown seal, grout issue, whatever it is, take a piece of tape, put it on there and write the problem on it. And then ask the homeowner, when you're done writing up the paperwork at the end of the appointment, just be like, I know this is kind of unsightly with the tape all over the place, but if you could just leave that there until the measure tech comes out, I want to make sure that he sees all the same problems that we saw, so that when he double checks the notes, everything lines up. Measure tech does not need to see this, obviously. But if I have a homeowner where they buy 40 grand worth of windows and they feel good about it, but they wake up tomorrow and they go, did we spend 40 grand on windows? And then they come downstairs and there's a bunch of tape all over the place because of how damaged and inefficient their windows are, they're gonna be like, oh, that's right. That's why we did it. So it's gonna help you with your button up after the fact. Okay, we could go on for days and days on different types of tools. I want to open the floor to you guys for a minute because I've covered just about everything that we talk about in here. Are there any other tools that you guys use out in the field that we need to add?
Construction laser. That way you can point out all the different configurations, so soffit, fascia, those different type of things that are high level that you can't get to, that, even like gable vents, little stuff like that, talking about cutting in soffit vents in certain areas, not going above windows due to fire code, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. Smart stuff. I got one of those sitting over here. It's a part of my third tape measure. Got a little laser on the edge of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you got one of those, they're inexpensive. How many of you guys suck at math? I'm not great at it. Even as a carpenter, I like to deal in precision because I don't like mismeasuring stuff. So if you can measure with a laser, not only is it high tech and make you look professional, but it's going to eliminate a lot of the human error. So good way to do it. If you ever had to measure a big atrium window above a front door, it's tough to get to those sometimes. And they're usually like eyebrows or something along those lines. So it's an architectural window. They're tough to measure. Use the laser. All right. Anything else? That's a really good point, Jason. Thanks for bringing that up. moving right along. If you think of something, throw it in. After we go through the measure and inspection with the homeowner, you will have taken a lot of notes on what the problems are. We want to get a commitment from the homeowner that this is something that they need to do sooner rather than later. So at the end of this step, we hit them with our major commitment on urgency. So I would always say, well, guys, I can definitely see why you called us out here this afternoon. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Use a little empathy in there. I think it's safe to say whether you hire us or any of our fine competitions, something needs to happen here sooner rather than later. Don't you think? Something along those lines. I can definitely see why you called us out here. This is a serious problem. I think we can agree whether it's us or somebody else. You got to get this done soon, right? Get that commitment from them. And then at that point, sometimes they're pretty upset because they had no idea how bad it was. That's where I want to extend an olive branch. I'd be like, guys, as much as this sucks, the good news for you is we specialize in solving this problem. This is unique to you in your life, but this is not unique. We see this every day. So I know I can show you guys a solution you're going to love. And the coolest thing about our company is I can fit this into anybody's budget. So why don't we head back to the kitchen table? I'll tell you a little bit about our company, explain how we're going to do things for you, and you guys can decide if we're a good fit. All right. So now you transition out of the measure and inspection, you make them feel all warm and fuzzy, you get right back to the kitchen table, and we start step 5, company story. So that commitment is going to be in your book. It's also going to be something that hopefully you're doing every day in the house. If you don't get this commitment from people where they tell you they have to get the job done, what is the objection that they're going to give you at the end?
Think about it. Maybe we'll do this next year.
Yep. We need to think about it. Nah, this is a 2025 project.
We'll wait till we get our tax return.
Oh yeah, tax return. That's a good one. I'll take that objection all day long. Hopefully we can solve that one. Some creative financing.
Well, and I think they say too, well, we've been dealing with it for this long. We can go a little bit longer. That's always the situation too.
Mm-hmm. Now, if they say that and they won't commit to you, because some people are stubborn. There are people where I've gone in and I've seen their shower and it's fine. There's no real issue with it. And they're like, we have to get this done. And then I go into showers where like the tile's falling off the back wall. They have a second shower liner up there and they've been living with it for 5 years like that. They don't give two shits. They're like, it's not that bad. Like, really? Because you're about to fall through the floor. So I don't want to fight with them, but I still have to get the commitment. So if they go, yeah, it's not that bad, what do you do?
I explain that it's very similar to that of like having a toothache. It starts as a cavity and it's always going to get worse. I kind of take that scenario. I had a client tell me one time that they fix things in their house based upon their annoyance scale. And I said, oh, well, what are the windows on your annoyance scale right now? And the husband screamed from the kitchen. He's like, they're a 10. If they could be a 20, they would be. So I always use that. I like that analogy. So I'll use that sometimes in the house too.
That's awesome. People will, if you can tie it to their level of annoyance or frustration, it's great.
Yes.
If you can tell them a story, it's great. Where it's like, you know what? This is a true story. I went out to this guy's house in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin for a shower appointment. And the guy answered the door in a full body cast from his neck to his waist. And his arms were out like this. And when I walked, he's 74 years old. When I walked in, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And he goes, I broke my back in 3 places. I was like, whoa, how? He goes, well, I tried to step over the bathtub and I lost my balance. And I went to grab, he had one of those suction cup grab bars. This thing used to be freaking outlawed. He grabbed it. Obviously, it pulled off the wall. There's nothing soft in the bathroom. So he hit his neck on the sink and he hit his back on the toilet and he broke his back in 3 places. 74 years old. So how long is that going to take to heal? Yeah. The story has a happy ending. He's dead now. No, I'm just kidding. Ah, sorry, guys. Had to wake you up. No, what happened was he had been talking about getting rid of that damn bathtub for years. He goes, I got quotes for this in 2018. And this was in 2020. He was like, it was just too much money back then. I couldn't afford it. Do you think if he knew then what he knows now, he would have bit the bullet and bought the damn thing? So I'd tell that story in the house to homeowners all the time. Be like, guys, I will take your business whenever you want to give it to me. But this has been going on for 5 years. And the amount of mold bloom you have in here is a serious health concern. So don't be the people who get a chronic freaking lung infection before you actually do something about this shit. Don't be the type of person who actually falls through the floor because the subfloor rots out before you decide it's time to do something. This is beyond emergency. And I say that whether you hire us or anybody else. Get this done. No one else is twisting their arm, creating the sense of urgency for them. I'm doing it. There's no reason to continue if we don't get that commitment from them. You're just leaving the door wide open for them to tell you, we need to think about it. I hate that crap. I want to kill the objection in its crib. So that is going to be the major commitment after we go through our measure and inspection. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. Now we're going to get back to the table and we're going to roll right into company story. Now, how many of you have a pretty compelling company story? Pretty good. What are some of the things you talk about? Let's go down to third estimate.
Well, we're family owned and operated. So we've been a company for about 30 years now. So.
Female owned,
Yep.
so, which is rare, as far as, what else do you talk about?
Talk about our Google rating. It's very good. We have over 700 Google reviews at a 4.7. Licensed, bonded, insured.
Another huge advantage to using us over other companies that we have all in-house installers versus all subcontractors.
Nice.
We're one of the biggest in the area that's not taken over by private equity.
Wonderful. What does that mean for me if I'm a customer?
That you can call me and complain if you want to. You
True. If a company's bought out by private equity, how important is customer satisfaction to them?
Very, or not.
You're just a number.
Just a number.
Mm-hmm.
There are other people they answer to before they answer to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a customer number. But if you're family owned and operated and you've been part of the community for 30 years and we ghost you, what are you going to do?
You're gonna light us up on social media. You're gonna call us directly.
Yeah.
But we try to avoid that. So our slogan is we're small enough to
Listen, but big enough to deliver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like me. I'm old enough to know better, but still too young to care. You know? So, a bunch of really important information that you got to deliver to homeowners, and how much do they care? Show of hands, who likes to sit through a PowerPoint presentation? Anybody? This is the hardest step for sales reps to actually deliver on in the house, because how many of you use like Engage or PowerPoint or, yeah? Is all the information in there very important to deliver to the homeowner?
Yes.
Absolutely. But what happens to their face when you pull out your iPad and go, okay, guys, time for a 47 slide show, baby. You ready? Been practicing all day. It's going to take like 2 hours. Watch all the color drain out of their face. There's two reasons why. Obviously, nobody likes to be lectured or talked at. Secondly, everybody says they have the greatest company in the world. We are the best. Of course you are. You're a salesperson. You're all the best. And lastly, your resume only loosely correlates to whether or not you have any idea what the hell you're doing. But the information is vital. So you guys talk about being insured. we talk about the 4 keys to holding a listener's attention. The one I'm going to lean into right now is storytelling. How many of you guys are good storytellers? Okay. I'm going to give you an example of 2 ways to deliver one piece of information. You tell me which one's better. John and Mary, we carry a $4 million insurance policy with $1 million of workman's comp, because obviously we want to protect you. We want to protect us and our employees if we're taking on a project in your home. Wouldn't you agree it's important to hire an insured contractor? To which they say, no shit. Isn't everybody insured? Is everybody insured?
No.
60% of contractors are uninsured or underinsured. 60%. Why is that?
It's expensive.
Costs a shitload.
Yeah.
Takes
Buck
away
is-
from the bottom line.
I was gonna say Buck just broke out in a cold sweat when we started talking about that. He's like, "You pay so much money for insurance." Crazy. We have the highest injury rate of any freaking profession in the United States. The building trades, more people get hurt doing this than any other job. Because you're working with power tools and you're working at height, and very few training measures are put in place for people. So insurance is crucial and it's expensive. But homeowners just see that as a talking point unless you get them to visualize it. So I'd always tell a story. I'd be like, guys, before I got into selling home improvement products, I was a commercial carpenter. So I used to put in those big overhead doors that you guys see at warehouses. You know, semis back up to them. Full vertical lift garage doors. I don't know how familiar you guys are with these things, but when you put up a garage door like this, the upper tracks meet at what's called the spring line. Has anybody ever looked at the garage door springs in their home? They're like 2 1/4 springs. They're about this big. The commercial ones are called duplex springs a lot of the time. It's an 8-inch spring with a 6-inch spring inside of it. It's a heavy door and it's got to go all the way up. So the way you wind those is I'm on one ladder, my partner's on the other ladder. We go up to the top of this thing, 22 feet up, and then the spring's got a winding cone with 4 different ports, and you take 3-foot tempered steel winding bars and you put them in and you turn it a quarter turn at a time until you put about 12 or 13 turns on this thing. Now, once you're done winding that up, it holds enough stored energy that if you were to release it, it's like a shotgun blast going off point blank. So back when I was doing this, I was working for a company called Door Systems. And I had a partner who was an 18-year-old kid, and we had gone through OSHA training, safety training, the whole 9 yards. Now, the last thing you do when you're done winding up a spring is you pull the winding bar towards you, you tap it to stretch the spring so it doesn't bind up. And there is one rule when you're winding a spring, which is you never, under any circumstance, put your hand on the spring. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, this kid next to me was a little guy. Those springs are hard to wind. So instead of holding the bar, pulling it towards him and tapping it, he put the bar on his shoulder, he put his hand on the winding cone, and then he tapped it. And when he did that, I'm assuming that somebody had dropped this spring at some point during transit. So there was probably a tiny little crack in the winding cone. So when he hit it, the winding cone exploded. The set screw caught his thumb and ripped it off his hand. And all I saw was arterial spray, and I heard a very loud noise, which scared the shit out of me, and then screaming. One mistake, one split second, one 18-year-old kid lost his thumb. And thank God we were insured because it was a union job. Because how much does it cost to reattach a thumb if you can find it?
About 60 grand.
Yeah, I don't know what microsurgery costs. I know it's pretty freaking expensive, right?
That's probably accurate.
No, it's happened to a couple of my guys.
What kind of physical therapy goes on from that forward?
Oh, God.
How much does that cost?
Probably endless. Speaking from like orthopedic sales, like it doesn't really end.
Yeah.
That's nerve damage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the poor kid, you know what I mean? Like the psychological trauma associated with that, I still think about it all the time. It sends chills down my spine when I think about it. I tell the story at every training. I tell it in every house as well. When I tell that story, the reactions I would get from homeowners would be like, oh. And I'd be like, yeah. And that happens all the time. That is only one of 3 major injuries I saw occur on job sites over the 7 years I was doing it. That's just one guy's career. This is dangerous stuff, guys. Now, I'm not saying we're the right company for you. I have no idea. But we carry a $4 million insurance policy for reasons just like that. Is there any scenario where you guys would hire somebody if they did not carry, I mean, a shit ton of insurance? Because what happens if they don't have enough insurance and they get hurt on your property? Now what?
You gotta use your homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, you use your homeowner's insurance, right? Does your homeowner's insurance cover that?
Maybe not.
Not if you don't have a butler clause. To which the homeowner goes, what's a butler clause? We're like, well, it's something that's lacking from 97% of homeowners insurance policies nationwide, which protects you if you hire third-party work and they get hurt on your property. Because you guys don't understand, when you hire a contractor, you become the GC. You are their boss, which means you assume all liability for what happens if they don't have adequate insurance. It sticks to you. Do you guys have a butler clause on your policy? Most of them go, I don't know. I'd be like, if you don't know, the answer is no. So the importance of this is crucial. When I vet contractors, I want to make sure they have enough insurance coverage that if somebody falls off of my roof and on the way down to breaking their neck on my driveway, they strike a match and they burn my house to the ground, we're good. There are people living under bridges all over this country because they hired the wrong contractor and they lost everything.
Quick
Yes, sir.
question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
When we get into this type of thing in insurance, sometimes I've actually had people also, and this might be a different conversation, but people get a little bit spooked about the taxation of like you're adding square footage to your house. But how do we keep from getting too far into the weeds, talking about like insurance and stuff like that? Like if they get spooked and all of a sudden they want to head down like a rabbit hole, or maybe they're the analytical type.
Mm-hmm.
How do we prevent that from happening?
Yeah, so there's two ways that I would deflect, because that's a legitimate concern, right? We finish our basement, we double the active living square footage of our house. Is that going to hit our taxes? Yeah, probably. Is that going to hit our insurance? Most likely. But the good news is the wheels of bureaucracy, they spin very slowly. When's the last time you had your property assessed? I mean, we have done massive upgrades to the house I'm in now. It's been 3 years. Never had a problem.
Plus, isn't a percentage of that written off?
Yeah, that's something where I'm not going to comment because I don't
That's the
know
weeds.
enough about it. So if you know about it, jump in here. Definitely not a tax attorney.
That's where I deflected. I used to always get, when I got that question, I used to say, listen, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, just call your accountant, do you have one? Yeah, and call your accountant and ask them, does it add? It adds a little bit, that's all I know, I've never been told any different. And I stop and I move on, I aim.
Well, plus, is the juice worth the squeeze? Let's say that you double the square footage of your house and your taxes go up 15%. That's substantial, but what happened to your property value? It doubled.
Yep.
That's a good investment. So I had this happen. We sold a house in Wisconsin before we moved out here. It was an old manufactured home. It was like 960 square feet. But on the back of the house, there was a Three Seasons porch, and it was just glass, single pane sliding all the way around with an aluminum shell. Real basic. And when I went to sell the house, I was talking to our real estate agent, and I had one of those little electric heaters that looks like a fireplace out there. And she goes, are you taking that with you or does it stay? And I go, why? She goes, because if it stays, this is technically a climate controlled space and we can count it as square footage in the living area when we list the house. And I was like, shut up. And all of a sudden my house is not 960 square feet anymore. It's 1,300 square feet. It's not a 2-bedroom. Now it's potentially a 3-bedroom. Fascinating. So I was like, listen, there are tricks of the trade here. And if you can talk to homeowners about it, make it relatable, they'll be like, oh, that's not a bad point. Like, not to mention, let's say worst case scenario, you end up getting killed on taxes. Let's say it doubles your taxes, which sucks. What's the alternative? You guys said you need to get this done because you want to have your kids move down here. You need more space. Are you just going to abandon that? You plan on moving? Yeah, but
There's another way to do it, and if somebody asks you that question, you go, well, what do you know about it? You put it back into his lap.
Yeah,
That's what I know about it.
yeah, I know as much as you do.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this though, this house would be way more badass if this basement was finished and livable.
there you go. You move on.
Move on, you know? There's a book called Persuasion by a guy named Robert Cialdini. If anybody has read it, you know it's awesome. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. But in Persuasion, he talks about how when you get people to play a positive movie in their mind through seeding and layering of the positive outcome they're going to experience, the more positive things they're focused on, the less they negative or the less that they focus on the negative aspects of a project. So we want to keep it positive all the time. It's just green lights all the way. Okay, so we talked about selling insurance. Any of you guys have an A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau? What does that mean?
A+ rating with the member BBB. That means we paid our dues.
Yeah.
What does that mean if we're trying to sell it to a homeowner?
A lot.
What is the Better Business Bureau?
It's a for-profit business that represents companies and gives you ratings. So it's really prior to Google reviews. People would use the BBB and they can dispute claims. They can help get you involved that way with disputing the claim. So sometimes they would kind of offer like a little bit of arbitration. They would talk, or at least they would in Ohio. And then they would give us ratings based on it. So a typical company might have an A+ rating, but they could have, it'll show how you resolve the complaint. Because it's normal for someone to have a complaint, especially when you have hundreds and thousands of customers, but it's the fact that you resolved the complaint. So it shows the longevity and how long you've been in business. So it's a one-stop stop for a customer where they can just see this guy's been in business for this long. They have an A+ rating, they have problems, but yet they've solved them.
Yeah, so it's one of many watchdog agencies and third-party tools that I'll use to build a strong foundation around the idea that we're good at what we do and we are held accountable by others. Some people, go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was going to say the other one, if you have a good rating, is JD Power. Because that's not based on resolving just issues, which Better Business Bureau is all about. You know, as long as you answer your issues and resolve them, you're A.
Yeah.
Where JD Power is a whole different aspect, you know, if you have a good rating.
Same with Guild
Can I
Quality.
say,
yeah.
I wish that we could rate customers sometimes.
Me
like
too.
the pain in the booty people, because I've had people follow me from other companies. I'm like, oh, I know that name. Yeah. Sorry, I just did it.
So that's where I always tee up the conversation using social proof, like these third-party organizations, so that you have a pretty good snapshot of how we do work with the people who we've done work with. I always tee that up by saying, now guys, these days, if I'm looking at online reviews, I want to see a whole lot of them, large sample size, so I can get a pretty good snapshot of how a company does things. Because I don't know about you, but for the people I interact with, I think you could line up 100 people and hand them all a brick of gold. At least 3 of them are going to bitch that it's too heavy, you know? And people always chuckle. And I'd be like, that being said, did you look us up before we got here? Yeah. What'd you see? Well, you got 4.9 stars on Google. 4.9. How many reviews? Thousands. In the home improvement industry, our job is to literally destroy the water barrier in your house and then rebuild it. And 98% of the time, people are ecstatic. That's a rounding error. Does that give you guys confidence when you're vetting contractors to make sure that it's not just some smooth talking salesperson feeding you a line of shit? It's actually tested. There's third-party information out there. Have you guys looked at Better Business Bureau? How about Guild Quality? Anybody in here a Guild Quality member? You want to describe it to us, Jason?
So Guild Quality, basically, typically they work with your manufacturers, like James Hardie, for example. And what they'll do is they'll gauge kind of how the whole experience was. They'll ask you, the customer, a series of questions as far as professionalism, timeliness, all sorts of different things, basically just to gauge how you actually interacted, how you performed, and how you actually completed. And what that's used is, for James Hardy, for example, what they do is they have the Elite Preferred Contractor Alliance program. And what they do is guild quality, if you're 90% or higher, you're allowed to get a specific badge. That badge basically says that you reach for satisfaction for the customer. So 9 out of 10, obviously that's pretty damn good in our realm. So that's kind of that's the gist of it.
Yeah, exactly. It puts you in the top tier of contractors when it comes to the way we communicate with our customers, our price point, our installation method, our timeline, all the things we talk about. It's a third-party organization. They call our client base, they get honest reviews, and they put them on there. We can't pay for it. There's no way. It's not like Better Business Bureau where as long as I basically respond to any complaint, I can maintain my A+ grade. There are companies out there with A+ ratings on Better Business Bureau with thousands of complaints. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work the same way with guild quality.
Guild quality, a good way too, is that you can tell that if you're a company that's been in business for a long time and you only have like 200 guild quality reviews, that means that you're selective. So if you're going against a company that say has only 200 and you have 1,700 and you're sitting at a 91%, they're sitting at a 97%. Well, they're vetting the people that they're sending these particular surveys to. So then that way they can kind of manipulate the data to look better in the eyes of the public. So it's pretty easy to use and kind of pinpoint yourself way around.
And if you can describe this as a consumer to a homeowner, I'm like, look, as a fellow consumer, this stuff's important to me because when I'm making purchases, transparency is important. We can't fudge these numbers, and it's not all just silver linings across the board. These guys tell you what we're good at. They also tell you what we need to improve on. One of the things that I see when I get any sort of negative feedback from anyone in their company is that they overpromised on something like a timeline. So they're like, yeah, we're 6 to 8 weeks out when we're actually 10 to 12 weeks out. And so we got a negative review on that. They weren't as timely as they claimed they would be. I would much rather underpromise and overdeliver. So right now, production is telling me we're 10 to 12 weeks out. I'm going to tell you guys, you should expect 12 to 14. That way, if we show up in week 10, you're ecstatic. If I tell you it's 6 to 8 weeks and we show up in week 10, you're pissed. So you guys can handle the truth. Expect, 3.5 months. That kind of stuff. If you're transparent, you're keeping that level of integrity and that trust with them. You give them a peek behind the curtain, you show them how the sausage is made, they're going to want to buy from you. Most salespeople withhold information because they think it's an advantage. I want to let the information out at the right time in the house in order to maintain credibility and trust. All right, we talked about lead certification. How many of you guys work for a company that has a lead certification? All right. What's the special year we got to remember?
78.
1978. Now, at Third Estimate, you guys had mentioned that you have your own installers.
Yeah.
How do you describe the importance of that to a homeowner?
That it all points to us as far as the installation, so the quality, having them certified by the manufacturer, so they know how to install. They've been installing for 10 years is their average guy installing with Windows. So they're aware of setup with lead, they're aware of all these things. We take responsibility for it also. It's really coming down to the warranty. So if and when there is ever a problem, you can always just point to one finger and just call me. So, and then the rep would introduce his name again. So call me, I'm Steve, and then I'll take care of it. So you're bringing it back down to the fact that you're through the entire process, even though you aren't. So, dropping the name of the installer, so everyone would know that Mike Pavlov installs Windows and, Jason installs Windows. So they're dropping names and those names show up at the house.
Nice. What happens if you were to hire a contractor off the street? Like if you go to Home Depot and you buy a product and you have one of their recommended installers put it in. You mentioned warranty. How does that affect the warranty?
The installer might blame the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer may blame the installer, and you're stuck in the middle.
Yep.
That's the big.
That's the big problem. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's no one's fault.
It's his fault.
Okay. Yeah, so you buy it. So like the way I describe it to homeowners, be like, you buy windows at Home Depot, they give you a list of contractors, you hire one, they come and they put the windows in. 6 months later, you're noticing that you've got discoloration where there's water coming in somewhere. Who do you call? And then the homeowner goes, well, I call Home Depot. Okay. Hi, Home Depot. Yeah, we just sell the window. You got to call the contractor who installed it. Here's his number. So you call him. Does he answer the phone? I don't know.
Might not even be in business.
Might not even be in business. 96.5, right? But that being said, let's say he does answer the phone. And he goes, listen, I installed those things the right way. One of them's leaking. It must be a manufacturer's defect. Why don't you call the manufacturer? Call the manufacturer. What's the first question they ask you?
Who put it in?
Who they install?
Who is the certified installer that put it in? And you go, I don't know. He had truck nuts hanging off the back of his old Ford Flareside pickup truck. Does that help? And they go, have a nice day. You're screwed. Round and round you go, and it always ends up with you. But hey, at least you got a good price.
Or if you bought it from Home Depot, did you purchase the extended warranty? You know, that stuff starts.
Yep. And Buck asked about kill books yesterday. This is where if they want a visual for what you're talking about, you pull out your kill book. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow when we get into evolution, but in a kill book, I will have all the manufacturer's warranties for all my competition printed out, and I will have all the egregious language highlighted. So if you were to pull out,
temperature reaches above 90 degrees, your warranty is void.
Yeah.
If it's 80 degrees outside, it's going to be 140 between the glass. So they're
Every warranty has a back door. Just remember that. Yeah. You got to
Really?
find them and pinpoint them.
That's
you
it.
know, it doesn't matter what product it is. There's a back door to every single warranty.
Right.
Yeah. And it's because corporate attorneys sit around and come up with creative ways to protect the company. So it's like big, bold print, lifetime warranty. Then you go to this freaking laundry list of things that aren't covered. And I just start watching the homeowner read the list. And they're hilarious. You know, high humidity.
And whose lifetime are we talking about?
Right.
My
It'll be
or mine?
Renewal by Andersen. How many of you guys worked for Renewal by Andersen? Somebody did, right?
Me.
Lifetime warranty, 2010-2, 20 years on the glass and frame, 10 years on the hardware, 2 years on the labor.
That's a lifetime.
What is that?
5 years now, Dan.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, they upped it to 5.
Okay. Now, who knows more about the failure rate, the predictive failure rate of these products than the people who are manufacturing and testing them?
Exactly.
So if they put a 20-year warranty on the frame and the glass, when do you think it's going to fail?
Year 20, year 21.
Year 21. Now, why is there only a 10-year coverage period for the hardware?
Because at year 11, it's all going to crap.
Yeah. The only way you get a return on investment for this product is if it is a permanent maintenance-free solution. Does any of this language indicate that this is a permanent maintenance-free solution to your problem? How much are you guys willing to spend on something that doesn't solve your problem?
27.
It's ridiculous. So there are shingle warranties that say things that aren't covered, animal waste. Has a bird ever shit on anyone's house? Warranty is void. Secondary materials. It's the responsibility of the owner to reseal around these windows every 18 months. How about the argon gas stipulation? It is known that argon gas dissipates over time, which is why we're not responsible as to the amount or volume of gas within a glass pack after it leaves the manufacturer's floor.
Most of the window companies.
What's that?
Most of the window companies don't warranty the argon gas retention. Andersen actually does, but most companies don't.
Yeah,
Let me tell you about our company and how we're different, Andrew, because our company, and I'll explain the science behind gas retention and the spacing system and how you can stabilize gas with nitrogen. If that's something that pops out at them, yeah, you stabilize argon with nitrogen. It's like putting nitrogen in the car tire in the winter so it doesn't deflate. That's what they do. 2% nitrogen stabilization in a super spacer, so you don't needle inject it. It's filled in a fog chamber.
But it's because of the material that we use.
What's that?
it's because of the material. It's the Fibrex.
Yeah.
Fibrex
I mean,
expand and contract, so therefore there's no leakage, you know?
all right. If you guys want to hear my kill tomorrow for Fibrex, I'm happy to walk you through it. Fibrex composite window is my favorite window in the world to kill. It's my favorite product in the home improvement industry to kill, in fact, because the story behind it is so good. It is
I
also
want to hear this tomorrow then.
yeah, it's also the best marketed product maybe in the United States. They're marketing geniuses at RBA. I take nothing away from these guys. They are really good at what they do. But I know I have to kill them in the house. So when we use the kill book, I will walk you through how I did it with RBA because there's nobody in here who works at RBA. So
Yeah, remember, I don't work there anymore.
I know.
For 3 years, but
So as we're talking company story with people, depending on what comes up, we're going to use different tools. But I want to make sure that all the information on my slideshow is delivered to them. But I don't want it to be death by PowerPoint. I strongly recommend that all of you memorize the order in which your slides go. You make sure that they're not cluttered up with tons of information and paragraphs so the homeowner's reading. They're just cue cards. And I used to have people where I'd pull out my iPad and I'd be like, all right, everybody's favorite moment. Who likes a PowerPoint presentation? And I'd watch all the color drain out of their face and I'd go, guys, I'm just messing with you. And I'd close my iPad. I'd be like, I would never do that to you guys. You've been really cool to me. I don't want to torture you. And then I'd start my presentation from memory because I've done it a million times. And I would have a conversation where I hit every single freaking slide. Now, until you get to the point where you've delivered this pitch 500 times and you know it backwards and forwards, you need to lean on this thing. But don't read off it. Just have a slide, get your visual cue, and then just talk to the homeowner about it. And that's going to lead to the conversation that rolls from slide to slide. And sometimes you'll be like, oh man. And you go through like 2 or 3 slides. You're like, man, we already talked about all this. And they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And by the time you get to the end, they trust you. They're like, man, you guys are a staple in the community. You know what you're doing. You've been doing it a long time. You don't cut corners. It costs more to do it this way on the front end, but it makes sense because you're protecting us. All those things are super important to get out there. And at the very end, we want to get a commitment from them. So we summarize the entire presentation we just went through, and we get a trial close. So be like, John, Mary, I know that was a ton of information. Do you have any other questions about our company or the way we would take care of this project for you if we earned the business? I go, no, man, you answered everything. Be like, can you see why so many thousands of families are trusting Grosso University over any of our competitors? Yeah, I sure can. Well, in that case, if I can show you guys a product that you fall in love with and exceed your expectations on affordability, would we have earned the right to ask for your business? If you get a strong commitment on that, you shake their freaking hand. You know, I appreciate that. I'm glad he said yes. If you guys had said no, we were going to have to go all the way back to the beginning. I didn't want to do that again. Have a little fun with them. Now, sometimes people show you how little they're listening to you at this point, where you ask them that. If I can show you a product you love and exceed your expectation on affordability, would we have earned the right to ask for your business? And they look you dead in the eye and they go, well, it depends on how much it costs. And so you reach across the table and you slap them. Wake up, Mary. But I want to ask the question again in a different way. Anytime you don't get the answer you're looking for, just reframe the question and ask it again. Oh, obviously, if it's not affordable, we can't do it. I understand that entirely. But hypothetically, price aside, if we had what you wanted fit into your budget, would you trust your home to our company? Oh, yeah, I think you guys do a nice job. Like, I feel the same way. That's why I work here. I appreciate the trust. All right, guys, that was the boring stuff. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Now it's time for the fun stuff. Let's go shopping. And then we're going to get into step 6, which is evolution. But we got to make sure we get these major commitments. That's one of the things I'm going to have you guys memorize tonight. The major commitment after the company story. And in the prior step, the major commitment after the measure and inspection. Role play. Sorry, go ahead.
67.
Yeah, it should be. Because it's 87 in my book. And I got an extra chapter. Now, as soon as they give you that commitment, you shake their hand. Hey, I appreciate it. What I want you to do is flip over your survey back to the home page here with the 4 boxes, and in a way that they can see you doing it, check off the company box. It's the other reason that we plant that seed early on. Now they know what's up. We check the box for company. We're going to move on to product. So tomorrow we are going to, tonight you're going to watch the videos on measure and inspection and company story. It's going to be a review of a lot of the stuff we talked about today, but I think there's more content in there I left out just because I don't want you guys to be totally bored with all the video content. I already learned this. Read the chapters, watch the videos. Tomorrow we're going to do 2 more steps, which would be evolution and product presentation, step 6 and step 7. At which point we will have gotten through the entire sales process. And then next week, we're going to be focused exclusively on closing, button up, and review. Because closing is hard and it's very detailed. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Fantastic.
You guys are kicking ass. I really appreciate the level of engagement. I mean, it makes it a lot more fun when we can talk about this stuff.
Hey, Dan, you asked a question before we started. Are we using anything in the house? Is anyone else using things in the house? And I stepped away for a moment because one of the guys had used the microscope on a roof today. And this picture, I'll show you, is a roof.
Oh man, is that a hail strike?
No, so that is a tree limb. So that picture is actually less than an inch. Now we sell coatings on roofs as well, not just rejuves. So this person was 28 squares. She paid $6,800 for repair 2 shingles and recoat the whole roof. So commission on that one's $650, hour-and-a-half sale.
Not
2
too
hours.
shabby. You guys want to make $400 an hour?
Yep.
That's awesome. Round of applause. That's what it's all about. These tools make the job so much easier. It makes it interesting and fun for people. This is my favorite part of the job, is literally diagnosing a problem with a homeowner and then showing them how we can fix it. This is a problem that's affecting your entire life, and I know how to solve it. Let me help you. Because I don't like closing, guys. Love selling. So focus on selling. What's the greatest close in the world?
A masterful presentation.
That is correct. So from this point forward, we are talking about a masterful presentation for product, but all the things we've talked about up to this point are part of a masterful presentation. If they're sold, you don't have to close. All right. Any other questions or comments before we bounce for the day? All right. You guys just were the first people to ever live stream training on YouTube. So thanks for being my guinea pig.
Right.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a wonderful night.
Thanks,
I'll see
Dan.
you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.